The Final Fantasy VII Remake looks absolutely gorgeous. I think the visuals look flat out incredible, and it's just a beauty to behold. Now, I have seen some people who sit there and argue, well, it doesn't look any different than any other modern video game. Its graphics look great, sure, but they're nothing that any other game hasn't been able to achieve, and while that may be true, I want to talk a little bit about why this is such a big deal and why gamers like me are so excited to see this game's graphics and why we are so blown away by it. Let's go back to the year 1997 when Final Fantasy VII was first released. The pixelated graphics back then were top-notch. That was something games had not been able to do ever. They went from 2D sprites from Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy IV to being able to have fully rendered 3D polygonal graphics and make them look somewhat humanistic in character was a monumental achievement. Back then, the FMVs were something that were never, ever thought could be done before. I remember watching the FMVs back in the day and being blown away by the sheer scope that the FMVs gave us. It was the Midgar section in Final Fantasy VII that really struck me when I saw that. Wow, wouldn't it be so cool to be able to control something like that, to be able to have a game with this great of graphics? And we have far surpassed what the Final Fantasy VII FMVs have been able to achieve. But it's through those FMVs that was the big inspiration, because I do remember thinking back in the day, I'm never going to be able to play a game that is going to look this beautiful. And yet here we are with the Final Fantasy VII Remake doing just that. And as I said, other game graphics are great, maybe even if not better than what the Final Fantasy VII Remake shows, what it's been able to achieve. But to be able to see these scenes fully rendered with 3D animations that look almost so realistic and human-like, completely far away from those polygonal graphics, and be able to see this brought to life is just something that I am still having a hard time wrapping my head around. Because back then, we had to use our imagination to envision what these characters really looked like. We had to use our mind to bring these characters to life, and each and every one of the scenes that were constructed in Final Fantasy VII, they gave me an idea, but I had to expand and explore the world inside of my head. There was a lot left up to the imagination. So to be able to see some of these ideas and concepts come into the remake that I had way back in my head when this game was first released is a big deal. Final Fantasy X really set the groundwork in taking the FMVs and making those part of the Final Fantasy experience when it came to moving it into more of a realistic kind of 3D-ish kind of look. And Final Fantasy X's graphics actually still, in my opinion, stand up very well. But this is the first time that I truly get to see Final Fantasy VII fully remade in a fully realistic looking engine with characters that do actually look like real humans, with characters that look like actual humans outside of cutscenes. This is a monumental deal, at least for people who grew up playing Final Fantasy VII. And I think that's why so many of us have gotten excited about Final Fantasy VII. Personally, I am looking forward to the remake. I'm skeptic about it because Square Enix this generation has been very hit and miss with a lot of their games, and I don't want to build up my excitement super high that I'm just disappointed. But it is nonetheless something that I am truly looking forward to being able to experience, and its graphics and seeing these are really ringing that nostalgia, and being able to see these scenes brought to life just puts one big smile on my face. As a longtime Final Fantasy fan, it has me excited, and even if the Final Fantasy VII Remake ends up sucking, it's not going to destroy the legacy that Final Fantasy VII has left behind. It's even more just going to cement how timeless that game was, and how a remake couldn't even live up to the hype and potential that it is. Even if the remake is bad, I still want to give them a try. Even if there's that chance, that sliver that it won't be good, I want to give it a try. Square Enix is a company I will never bring myself to hate, Even if moving forward I don't like the present modern Square Enix and they never release another game that I like, they are always going to have a special place in my heart. Or more so when they were Squaresoft, because so many of the titles they created back on the PlayStation, Super Nintendo, and PlayStation 2 still ring true and tried in my heart. They are some of the best games that I have ever played. And honestly, I think this is where a lot of Final Fantasy fans sit. We're pessimistically optimistic in order when it comes to looking forward to this game. And in order to fully understand why, it's kind of the point of this video. It's because we're seeing this game fully realize what we envisioned as a child. What Final Fantasy VII graphics looked like in our heads when we were playing this. And I'm excited for a brand new generation to hopefully have a chance to experience this game in all of its grand glory and understand why so many gamers back in the 90s and early 2000s treasured this title. Final Fantasy VII is a timeless classic, and it has inspired so many games, from its amazing storytelling, to its great characters, to its innovative gameplay, to its materia system, which is still popping up in Japanese RPGs today. Trails of Cold Steel very heavily borrow from the materia system through their orbment system, or the Trails games in general. And it is through these innovations that Final Fantasy VII shows just how much it has influenced the industry, and not to mention Final Fantasy VII inspired an entire genre of video games to become more popular here in the West, and can arguably be accredited to what gave birth of the Japanese RPG, or console RPGs, over here in the West. You guys have been watching Gaming with Spoons. Be sure to hit subscribe there for me if you have not done so already, to keep up to date with all things Japanese gaming related. Most importantly, stay happy, be happy, game happy. Spoons is checking out.